guys, this is Taylor, and I'm here today to wrap up my reading from July. The mailman just walked right by me as I started filming. So first and foremost, the bulk of what I read this month was from a TBR chosen by one of my best friends, so I highly recommend that you watch that video first if you want to know why I read what I read this month. So I'm going to talk about these 4 books first, and I'm going to talk about them in order of enjoyment from least to most enjoyable, because I think in this case it makes sense. So first off, Ideanapped Good Omens. Ideanapped Good Omens. This was just a case of really aggressively not my thing, unfortunately. I totally respect both authors. I understand and acknowledge the cleverness, the cultural impact, everything. I just could not get into this at all. I tried this for a good 150 pages and just picking it up felt like a chore, and that's never a good thing. I would love to see the upcoming BBC adaptation, funnily enough. I feel like this would translate tremendously into a well-produced TV series. It's just not something that I personally enjoyed reading. So there's that one. Sorry, Sydney. The next book for my TBR that I want to talk about is The Good Earth by Perles Buck. So this is a classic that I have owned for such a long time, and it takes place in pre-revolutionary China and follows a man as he gets married and starts a new family and has experiences not limited to but including a pretty horrific famine. I thought the story and the plot of this was great, surprisingly palatable, absorbing, all of that. Like I said, I've owned this for such a long time, wanted to read it for forever, but always been a little bit apprehensive about it because it was written by a white woman in the 1930s. So in terms of my expectations for racism or even racist undertones, the bar was set pretty low. I had heard that this perpetuates negative stereotypes of Chinese people, and I could definitely see that within the book. So automatically that pretty much lowers the enjoyment value of any novel for me. So I think I gave this 3 stars. For me, this was one of those weird combinations of interesting but problematic. Next up, I want to talk about White Teeth by Zadie Smith. I finally got through this and I feel very accomplished about that. This is primarily about 2 immigrant families, one Jamaican and one Bengali. They're both living in London and their families are intertwining. Their second generations are growing up and coming of age together, and just the 2 families in general just becoming a proper mess. So my primary impression of this book is that for a debut novel that was written primarily when the author was, 21, 22, the scope and the ambition of this novel is beyond impressive. It's almost spooky. The writing, the themes are all beautiful. This feels like a novel that was executed by a seasoned novelist. I also thought that the tone was really original. It's very snarky but still very intelligent, and I just felt like this novel had a very strong grasp of the ideas that it was playing with. My main problem here is that I did still struggle to get through this, and there are definitely books where I have struggled through them, but the process has been rewarding, and this was just not really one of those for me. I didn't enjoy reading this. I guess that's the bottom line here. I was really thoroughly impressed by this. I just didn't like the process. So on Goodreads, I believe I gave this 4 stars, and that probably is because I was so impressed by it, but for me, it was probably closer to a 3.5 or so. So lastly, from my TBR, I read Feed by M.T. Anderson. I had been putting this off for at least 10 years, maybe more, because this is widely regarded as M.T. Anderson's best novel, and I'm just the type of person who almost doesn't want to have too much of a good thing. This was his last YA book that I had left to read. I was kicking and screaming, I didn't want to do it, but now, having read this, I have to agree and say that not only is this probably his best novel, but this is one of my favorite books of all time. It was absolutely amazing. First of all, Let me just tell you how much I didn't want to be with the majority opinion here, okay? Everybody who reads YA knows about Feed. Everybody loves it. I'm constantly trying to get the word out about his other works though. The Octavia Nothing series is probably the most beautifully written YA series I've ever read. Thirsty is an incredible allegorical novel that made me feel the whole spectrum of human emotion, but I really do feel like Feed was just on another level for me, and I'm so mad about it. So Feed is a dystopian YA that came out in the early 2000s. Most people have a device hardwired into their brains called the Feed that basically gives you information on virtually everything, constantly. Advertisements, messaging, news, propaganda, just constantly. So you can only imagine the kind of effect this has on people and on society at large. But for me, it wasn't even the commentary that really made this, it was the execution, as always. All of his books have so much personality, and it's completely over the top, and it's absolutely perfect. And then there are just these nuggets of pure weirdness, and it's exactly the type of weirdness that I love. Then the book kind of does a 180, and everything that was funny and sharp and entertaining suddenly becomes crushing and dire and suffocating. And that's exactly what M.T. Anderson does best, and it's the type of maneuver that I honestly feel he does better than anybody else. I feel like I could talk about this book for an entire day, maybe one day I will, but for now, all you need to know is that, yes, I rated this 5 stars, yes, this is one of my favorite books of all time, and yes, this is officially the best book that I've read this year. Brass has been dethroned. I don't know how to follow that, but I did also read 2 books that Sydney did not choose for me. Another book I read this month was this entry in the 33 1/3 series that talks about Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I read this to basically get it off my TBR in light of everything that has been going on with Kanye recently. I didn't like this. I thought the author came off as super pompous. I only liked a handful of his ideas. I just really didn't like this. I gave this 2 stars. I fully regret spending money on this. I don't recommend it. I also read 84 Charing Cross Road. This is a collection of letters mainly by Helen Humph. I've picked this up this month because out of nowhere the director of the library where I work was like, you have to read this. And I was like, okay. But these are post-war correspondences between an antiquarian bookshop in England and a writer living in New York City who has very specific tastes. They just exchange books and gifts and develop a friendship over the years. It's undeniably charming. I can't picture anyone not enjoying this. And it's under 100 pages, so it was a nice little pick-me-up, and I would definitely recommend this if you like books about books. I'm pretty sure I gave this 4 stars. Yeah. So that was everything I read in July. I feel like this video was a little bit unbalanced, but so it goes. Let me know how your reading went this month. I feel like July was such a wild card month. Like, I saw so many wrap-ups that were just all over the place. But that's it for today. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye!